All right, it is time for today's high intensity tech training, the anatomy of a cybersecurity deal. We'll learn to crack the code on these opportunities and give you an edge in positioning solutions to security leaders. You'll learn how to identify key pain points and how to offer tailored cybersecurity solutions that resonate with decision makers. You'll be able to successfully navigate these conversations using insider tips to seamlessly cross-sell and upsell cybersecurity services, unlocking new revenue streams while solidifying lasting client relationships. Today, I am very happy to welcome back to the Tuesday call Telarus' VP of Cybersecurity, Jason Stein, and Telarus Security Solutions Architect, Sumaira Riaz. Thank you both for today's presentation.
Great job, Cassandra. Love having Doug, but you did an excellent job. Very, very nice. Sumaira, thanks for joining us today. Excited for some of the ideas and context that you have, especially around the anatomy of a deal. You know, one of the great things that Sumaira brings to the table for those of you who haven't had the opportunity to work with her yet is that she used to be a CISO. She's actually been in the industry both on the customer side and now on the engineering and architect side. So go ahead and go to the next slide for me, Chandler. So Sumaira, let's start and jump into, the landscape and what's changed. If you think about what it was like for you maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago in this industry, sorry if I'm dating you. So what's changed for you in the way that you approach cybersecurity and the way that cybersecurity leaders are approaching, all the different types of products that are out there, all the different services, whether they're trying to keep it in-house versus outsourcing it more? What's changed just recently versus how you used to do it in the past?
Sure, yeah, that's a great question. So there was a big shift between how we used to do security within a company and how we do it today. And it happened about 7 to 10 years ago. The office of a CISO, and you guys might have heard it already, it was the office of no, or where great ideas go to die, because getting an approval from a CISO's office on a new tech or a solution that a certain department wanted to deploy, usually it would be, nope, you can't do it, or it would just take a long time to, look through the risks and do the vendor demos to see if it's actually going to work or not. So we became more of a roadblock. And which we were fine with because it kept risk out of our environments. But what happened is these people, the departments who wanted to deploy these tech, they started going around us and doing it anyways. And that was the problem with that is when they deploy these solutions, it introduces new risks into our environment. And oh, by the way, that's where the term shadow IT came from, is because these departments would go on and buy solutions and technologies that didn't follow the usual chain of command to deploy certain tech in a company. So they would do that, introduce us to a whole slew of risks, leading to data exposure, breaches, or leaving a gaping hole for ransomware to take place. So all the CISOs in the world got together one dark day and decided, we are tired of being janitors for cleaning up after these messes. So if you can't beat them, join them. So that shift happened about 7 to 10 years ago, where the office of no as a CISO became the office of go. We became enablers. So that shift, one, it positioned us to have a seat at the table. It showed us as taking part in growth, revenue growth, instead of just stopping great solutions from taking place in the company. But it also opened up a big challenge for us, is now we are responsible for knowing about solutions to deploy that we have no clue about. And I can give you an example. This is from my personal life about 5 years ago. I was a CISO, and it's Monday morning, 8:30. I walk into my office, have not even had coffee yet. And one of our department heads, it was from the DevOps team, he's a friend of mine, and I'm gonna share this video with him after so you can get a chuckle. He was the most rebellious leader in our company. Stuff that came out of this man's mouth would be like, it would just give Bell's palsy to a CISO. It's like, how can you even think that way? This is so risky. And but he didn't care. He kept on, which is, I'm glad he did, because his team made a lot of great products that generated our growth, but they were also very risky too. So giving you some color on him, he walks into my office first thing, me being pre-coffee, just starting my day, he plops down right in front of me. He said, I was talking to Andrew, our CRO, last week, and we think it's taking too long for products to hit the production environment. So we came up with an idea. You give me access to prod, and I will decide which products of my team will go right into production, and I'll do checks and balances, right? And I'm looking at his face right now. I'm like, what I want to tell him is, this is not Burger King. You can't have it your way. There's the exit, go. But I can't do that anymore because I'm an enabler. So what I end up telling him is that, Sanjay, that's a great idea. I know the speed to market is key for us. Why don't you let me help you bring in a solution that is pre-vetted and secure that can move the needle. And also, it doesn't put your head on the chopping block too, because if something goes wrong there, they're going to come after you, not me. So that kind of resonated with him, and he said, "Oh, great." And he got up, he was super happy. He's like, "Okay, so we'll talk in 2 days." And he walks out the door, and I'm looking for the nearest cushion to scream into because I don't know how to find a solution that one is going to help generate revenue, right? To help speed to market. It's going to be a secure solution. It's going to solve this guy's problems. I don't know. And so what we did is we just called another CISO at the time and said, "Hey, what are you doing for this?" And then we would buy whatever they recommend, and it ended up being a doorstop or, an extra expense for us, and nobody used it. So in situations like this, I didn't know that there's an actual there's somebody called a trusted advisor I could call. I didn't know of a Rob Butler out of Houston. I didn't know there was a Vic Cardone in the East Coast. No idea about the OneTel guys, Johnny and Bo. Did not know about the awesome portfolio guys out of Seattle or Jeff Sharon's of the world. Hundreds, thousands more like it. I had no idea you guys are out there. So, if I did, I would be in such a better place. So many, I could accomplish so many things that I just wasn't able to when I was a CISO. So just wanted to, give a note of encouragement that when when you don't hear back from a security leader, don't give up. Please be persistent, because it's not you that they're trying to avoid. They just don't understand your business model, and they don't understand the value you're bringing to the table, because once they get it, I kid you not, you're going to need to hire more people.
So I love that. First off, the Office of No has changed. I think tech advisors are more comfortable having cybersecurity conversations because it is more of a business conversation. And what I mean by that is that a CISO, a security leader, is actually more open to having that conversation than they did before, because they used to push back. And now, you're starting to see the more greater adoption. And then the other thing we learned from Samara is don't talk to her before she's had her coffee. So let's talk about game plan. So what should the next 3 moves be? What would you do if you were a TA? How would you talk to yourself? What are the best ways to approach a cybersecurity person, position cybersecurity? Should they be extremely worried, if they're not technical on this call, about having that conversation with the cybersecurity leader today?
So no, not at all. So the conversations that a CISO would want to have with a trusted advisor has to do with a business outcome. It has to do with strategy. And then it can, it starts from strategy and goes into tactical. And that's where trusted advisors, if you don't have the bandwidth in-house for an engineer, you can tap into Telarus resources and we'll come help you out. So it goes from strategy to tactical. Keep the conversation business level. And I'm gonna, it's the one thing that's going for you in the TA space is you're vendor agnostic. So you have integrity built into your business DNA by design. And I'm going to tell you a secret. Integrity is a CISO's love language. If we hear some integrity, we are all over that, because that builds trust. So I just want to make sure that hits home for everybody on the call today. So moving into the game plan for the next 3 moves, one of the things is educating with clarity. So sharing what's coming up, what is on the next horizon, what does the next frontier look like? Sharing trends, sharing some risks that are out there. We have so much collateral at Telarus, we'd love to partner with you and help create some of these talk tracks. So the next one, co-create roadmaps. Jason, you had some great points when we were talking through this, the game plan, co-creating the roadmaps. Like, I'd love to, hear your views into that aspect of it.
Sure. So, what we mean by roadmaps, if you think about governance and some of the things that clients are trying to accomplish today, they're not always following some type of roadmap, some type of structure. They really need help, and they're at the mercy of their team. Let's face it, a lot of their team may be novices. They may not know all the different offerings that are out there, and they're kind of a product of their own environment that way. So, the great thing about having our solutions architects is that we'll sit there and we'll whiteboard their environment. We'll talk about what they have in place. We'll talk about where we see gaps. We'll talk about best practices, not only for their industry, but also for their size. And then we'll help create a roadmap for them. And that's what our engineers do better than anybody. So think about it. When you put a provider in front of a client, a lot of times they're trying to sell that client. Our engineers are not like that. We're talking about strategy. We're talking about best practices. We're talking about things that they need and, holes in their environment that could, potentially be detrimental to their organization. So I love that. If you think about it, I would say only 20 to 30%, based on some of the statistics that I've seen, of customers are even following a roadmap today. And you need that roadmap to make sure that you build something. If you're trying to build an engine or a computer and you're not watching somebody or getting some help, you're going to probably do it wrong. And then there's going to be all kinds of issues. I remember building a computer with my son and it kept overheating and we couldn't figure out what it was. And, then we had to do all these searches on the internet. Well, thank goodness we have all the technology that we do today. But, that's part of the advice that our team gives. We actually work with every different technology, every different provider that's out there. So we can not only talk about the pros, but we can talk about the cons. We can look at their environment and say, based on all the tools that you are utilizing, based on all the APIs that you have, these would be the 2 or 3 providers that we would recommend that fit into you seamlessly. So then let's say we do that, Samara. We build a roadmap for them. We have the initial conversation. We educate and we have this clarity. How then do we expand and execute an executive conversation?
Sure. So by doing that, you elevate the conversation by showing security is not just a cost, but showing the ROI on security. So I'd love to have, another session, Jason, if whenever time permits, is using security as a growth engine, not just a cost center. So for a long time, security is looked at another cost and is quite expensive. So budgets are, limited, high risk. But if you position security with an ROI, how it can grow a business, how it can grow their bottom line, how it can bring them more clients, that's elevating the conversation, because you're tying your outcomes that you are pitching right into the boardroom conversations. And that is how you get visibility to the CFO, to the CIO, to the CTO, get invited into conversations, not just in security, but from the larger tech stack. And that's where we want to be.
I love it. Next slide for me, Chandler. So if you start to then think about, I love this question in our chat. So let's say that they've had a relationship with a CIO or a CTO for years, and now a TA is starting to get more comfortable and positioning cybersecurity, and they have a conversation with a CISO. How do you build trust with a CISO or a security expert today? And then how does a CISO decide who that they want to work with? Is it a technology? Are they blown away by tech? Are they looking for people? Do they not want to be sold? Like what were your icks, if you will, that turned you off? And then what were the things that made you go, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. I like them.
Yes. Oh, I never was introduced to a trusted advisor during my tenure as a CISO and then a CIO. I never thought this. To me, this world was fantasy. You mean a guy is going to come listen to all my problems, then bring me solutions that are fits my values and culture, a secure solution that's a holistic one, and he's not going to shove a specific tech stack down my throat. He's vendor agnostic. Like, what is this? when, so it took me about my journey into the channel world, as you know, Jason, started but a little less than 2 years ago with a great TA. And it took me 5 months for light bulbs to go on in what we did. And once they did, oh my gosh, I was like, where have you guys been all my life? You would have made my life so much easier. So to, shorten my answer here to due time, once a CISO gets the value that you bring, which is priceless, by the way, you will need to, I kid you not, you will need to hire more people. Because once I know that I can trust you, that you understand, you get me, you get that I'm looking for solutions that are laced with integrity, that are laced with security, that are going to secure my entire network, my entire digital landscape, not just point solutions, that even if I need point solutions, you have a holistic view of my environment. You know it inside and out. That's when I'm going to introduce you to my infrastructure guy and say, hey, if you can work with my trusted advisor, whatever solutions you bring to me, I'll fast track it for you. Let me introduce you to my network guy. So it's just going to grow, because once you gain a trust from a CISO, they will take you to wherever they go, because that's how important you are. You solve our problems that we can't solve ourselves. We don't have time, nor do we have the knowledge of the vendor space like you guys do.
I love it. So let's jump into this slide. We were talking about things for the second half of the year and going into 2026 that are kind of on fire this year. So you want to start with number one?
Yep. So the first solution that's on fire is outsourcing to an MSSP. We're seeing a lot of that. So just sampling of calls, like 100 calls in the last, my 100 days of being here. Outsourcing to an MSSP is 80% of my calls are about moving a client to an MSSP for first layer of defense rather than keeping it in-house. So we're definitely seeing an uptick of the conversations around outsourcing.
So I love that. So 80% of organizations are looking to outsource at least one component. You're seeing more and more outsourcing. One of the great things Samara and I were talking about is that there's some funding that's available. Are you able to kind of shed a little light as to what's happening in this space from now until the end of the year? Is there type of funding that some of the TAs can take advantage of with their clients that
Sure.
maybe can help pay for some of the cybersecurity costs?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So if your clients today are in an industry that is regulated, for example, healthcare, transportation, some industrial, oil and gas, infrastructure, and if they're especially and organizations that are Native American, that are tribal, the companies can find the grants and funding they're available for on the regulations, on the compliance and regulations that they are adhering to. So you can go to Department of Homeland Security, you can go to the TSA website, you can go to federal fundings, and I can provide like a list of websites that could be, and again, it has to be very industry specific. So the client will go in, fill out the application, give their use case of why they need it, some information about their budget and what their financial needs are and what they're trying to do. I've done it myself for a company that I was at, and we needed some help pretty quickly. And but the funding doesn't take place until the next budget year, but at least I knew that that's coming in and I can plan for it. So it's available. A lot of people don't tap into it, but definitely it's there for clients who need it.
Awesome. Trevor, you bring up a great point that across the pond, people see it as something different, like a multi-marketing scheme or a Ponzi scheme. It's definitely challenging as you're trying to talk about the TA model, depending on where you're at geographically. So, I think it's good what Samara said. You kind of come in as agnostically, don't try to pitch products. Just talk about technology, just talk about a roadmap, talk about their team, talk about what their team's good at. So, Samara, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was a big to do right now is in Graham Scott's field, which would be, everything advanced network. So SASE, 60% of organizations are adopting SASE, Secure Access Service Edge, which is the security component that wraps around your SD-WAN in 2025. And then 70% of all new deployments will move to a zero trust network architecture over a VPN. Are those two separate products, or are they one? Are they under the same category? Why are they important, Samara?
Sure. So SASE, I know it's going to take me longer than a couple of minutes to answer the SASE. Maybe we can have a call later, Jason, like SASE with Samara. We can kind of go over a high level on what is SASE, the components of it. So, but in a quick elevator pitch, SASE is not a product. It's an architecture you deploy over your network. And it's specific. It can be specific to the OEMs or the tech. So you've got Cato SASE, you've got Zscaler, you've got Fortinet, Netscope, Palo Alto, SASE, and ZTNA is one of the 5 components that make up SASE, which is Zero Trust Network. So, of course, access into your crown jewels, into the heart of your business is very important, right? So Zero Trust, what it does is for remote workers coming into your environment, it makes sure they are who they say they are, authenticates, it has already AI behavioral pattern built into it, so especially the next gen SASEs. So they know this is the user, this is what they usually access. So if there is a difference or if there's an anomaly, it can lock it down. So just basically a great layer of security over the network.
Awesome. So, next we've been seeing a lot of uptick in AI-powered SOCs. And so if we think about why it's important, so one, you just heard us talk about how security is super important for the advanced network. Now with artificial intelligence being a part of that CX conversation, you're seeing cybersecurity become more and more one with a CX world or CX discussion. Every time I'm talking to anybody who specializes in the CX, the customer experience, they're starting to pivot and have more confidence in positioning AI. Well, when you start to think about artificial intelligence, one, they're not following a roadmap, they're not following a framework, they really need help with it. And who's having IT implement AI? Let's face it, it's usually non-technical people, right? It's the board of directors, it's the CEO, it's the CRO, CFO saying, hey, we heard about this AI, 70% of organizations are adopting it. We want to be the best at it, so go implement it. But no one thinks about how do you make sure that it's compliant? Who's accessing the AI? What's the output? Who's sharing the output? What kind of parts are they sharing? All of that needs a security component wrapped around it. And then you start to outsource it to the cloud. And that's where Kobe comes in with large language models. We need to make sure that we're controlling who has access and the tools that are being accessed and then all the data. So security is really hitting all the advanced solutions now more than ever. Now, one of the coolest things that's coming out this week in 2 days, first off, Samara, it might be tomorrow actually, Samara is super incredible in this industry, and she serves on the board for Forbes, and she actually wrote an incredible blog, an incredible article that's coming out, and quantum computing is becoming a really hot topic. So, Samara, I know you don't have enough time to cover all the bits and pieces, and we want to get the blog out to everybody, but talk about quantum computing. Why is it important? Why is it sexy? Why is everyone going to be leaning towards it? Why should everyone start studying now to be ready in 2026 for all the changes that are going to be happening because of quantum computing?
Certainly. So that's a very loaded question. Probably can't answer all of that in the time that we have today. But yeah, so quantum computing is going to be a shift in our reality and how we compute. So at a very high level, quantum computing is based on the law of physics, where our technology today is based on mathematical equations. So if you think of encryption today, it's basically a calculation of large factorial numbers. And when you can solve that, you can crack the encryption code or some anomaly of that, right? So, but quantum computing takes that and the processing speed of a quantum computer is warp speed. It's super fast and it can solve problems that we have today in minutes rather than it taking decades, right? So without diving too deep into it, read the article. It's going to be out tomorrow. Basically, it's a a very high level view of quantum computing and today's classical security meeting a quantum future. And that's where kind of executive vision begins. My article encourages boardroom members, executives to start learning, start talking about it, start researching it. I give a lot of different sources in there that you can, get primed on and get more understanding. And I'm sure as time goes on, we're going to talk about it more as well, because we want you to be ready for the next frontier, which is going to be quantum computing.
I love that. So first off, go to the next slide for me, Chandler. Board of directors are putting together a strategy for cybersecurity. They want to put together a committee that will advise the board. What you're going to see next is basically committees on quantum computing. I mean, I am sure most of you are very intelligent, but Samara just talked all around us, and wait until we read her article tomorrow. It's absolutely going to be very, very difficult for boards to understand. So bring in a team of resources with Teleris, bring in Samara, bring in, our, advanced solutions team to that board conversation and get pushed down to the CIO, and you're going to do really well. So look for that article tomorrow. Samara's going to have it on her LinkedIn page. So you can also find it on mine, but it gives you a good opportunity to go connect with Samara. So Samara, I love learning from deals. Walk us through the anatomy of a sale. So you had a customer come to you. What industry were they in? What were their challenges? How did you engage the conversation? How did you build that trust to the question earlier? And then what were the outcomes that you got from this client?
Sure. So we, brought into a call. It was a healthcare mid-sized company, CISO, and they were looking for a point solution from the technology advisory company on a singularity of pane for pane of glass of all of their tools, security tools to get to connect into. Because today, what was happening is they had alerts going on, but they didn't have enough staff, obviously, to check all the alerts. There was the events that were happening in their environment were reported by users rather than the tools detecting it. So I heard the frustration, but I like to dig deeper as to the driver, the why behind the ask, if you will. So we started again, like I said, a strategy conversation, kind of, why do you think you need it, right? What is a problem you're trying to solve? And just trying to see his environment through his eyes, which is a great, way to show empathy and to show that, yeah, I get what you're going through. And I bet these risks that you haven't even mentioned that you're facing today. And then his eyes just lit up. He's like, yeah, we have huge risks on, you just kind of listed out all the risks for me. And through the conversation, so we had uncovered the crux, or the real driver behind it was there was no centralized telemetry. There's, everybody's trying to do their own thing within a well-meaning, but it just wasn't doing the job. The reliance on users instead of the tool sets they have. And and by the way, they had a third-party SOC that was under-delivering, that they should be the ones coming and saying, hey, you've got this in your environment. It was the end users were reporting it, right? So it was a hodgepodge of different technologies. So listening to all that, listening that they are, of course, always ask, are you EBITDA driven? How are you financed today? They were EBITDA driven. So I kind of already know, okay, they have a long list of tools and licenses they're purchasing today, which is not working out for them. And they really need a 24/7. So I brought in providers who can offer an XDR solution, one to bridge all the gaps, provide them a first layer of defense, and move them to an OpEx model instead of licensing, because OpEx models usually go really well over with CFOs if you are EBITDA driven, depending on the circumstances, because then you're not spending your profit margins on license costs and human resources, where you can just have an OpEx cost, right? So that helped. Plus, it lifted that burden off of his team and gave it to an MSSP where they can be that first line of defense for them. And the outcome, it was over the moon. It was holistic end-to-end solution. They had the single pane of co-managed glass they're looking for. His own personal brand improved because now the board trusted him with the risks that they have in the company. And there was a clear ROI, return on his investment story, that he walked away with, which was it was a good day all in all.
I love that. Omar asked a great question, which is, what are some of the things that you would say to get CISO's attention or build rapport? Do you have some catchphrases or some things that you would probably start the conversation with? How would you engage to get their trust?
I know this is going to sound really simple, but listening. I listen, right? So you kind of have to read between the lines and hear what they're not saying. You have to, and knowing that, and of course, we can have a training, and I can give you some examples on what to listen for. So when I'm listening to them, if somebody's saying, "Man, I've got too many alerts, too many tools," what I'm hearing is they right now have shelfware, which is basically buying a tech, throwing it on a shelf, and you're just really not getting the most out of it. He's spending too much money, he's got budget issues, and he's got risks because of it. So there's a whole story behind just one sentence that he's not telling me everything, obviously, but from just one sentence, I can gather kind of what's going on behind the scenes because I was there. And through that, I can provide the solutions. I can bring ideas to the table for him that resonate and that solve the bigger issue rather than just that small one that he came to us with.
So I love that. And, to expand on that, I would, turn it into that business conversation that we were talking about, Omar and everybody else is, what are your challenges? What are some of the things that, you're concerned about when it comes to cybersecurity? Is it the employees? Is it your team not being able to keep up because it's too lean? Is it the technology? Is it because, like Sumera said, that maybe you were so caught up having to say no too many times, or the board told you no too many times, that you have an inferior cybersecurity product in place? So there's a lot of different ways to go about it, but nothing I'm saying is technical. This is a very business-centric conversation. You have the engineers and the architects, and you see what Sumera, Jason Kaufman, Trevor, all of our engineers bring to the table. They're all really dynamic. So initiate the conversation, have a business sense, talk about what their team's really good at, talk about what they complain about, talk about what their teams struggle with the most. How are they doing with compliance? Do they have audits that they need to pass? Do they have a roadmap or things that they're looking to implement this year or heading into next year? And how does security play a role in each of those types of decisions that they're making? Great. Would you be interested in a free opportunity for me to bring in one of my engineers, whiteboard your environment, talk about where we see gaps, talk about best practices? There's no one who turns down a free assessment from an engineering expert. And we have 4 CISOs on our team. That's basically the equivalent of a doctorate degree in cybersecurity. And Trevor has his master's degree in cyber, soon to be CISSP. So we have some really incredible people that will make you look really good in front of your clients. So with that being
I want
said,
to say one thing though, Jason, before we move on. There's something that you said one day. We were at an stand, I think in Colorado, and right before you went on, I asked you a question. Hey, do you get nervous in front of crowds or get? And I loved your response, and I think this is so timely. Is if you find this is Jason's response is what I'm kind of regurgitating here. He said that I seek to inspire people in a conversation. So if I focus on inspiring, I'm not focused on being nervous. I love that, Jason. I made that my own, and I learned from you that day. So for the people who are listening, if you're finding yourself in a conversation with a CISO and you're kind of out of your depth, seek to inspire. Bring ideas. Bring an idea that is comfortable for you to share. That's gonna make that CISO's life better, and you won't lose. So
that's awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And look, I try to make everyone better. And you hear Talaris a lot talk about elevate. We want to elevate our partners, and we want to elevate your clients. And that's what you say you're here to do. Listen, I'm here to be a resource. I have a deep bench of people. I may not be a security expert, but my team is. Give us a chance. Let us come in and sit down with your organization and show you all the value. Let us show you how much we can elevate your cybersecurity posture in this industry. So, Sumera, great job. Thank you so much. Very excited for all the things we have going on in your article coming out. Please click on that article. We're going to pass it back to Cassandra. Can't wait to hear from Joe.
Well, thanks to the Teleris's VP of Cybersecurity, Jason Stein, and Teleris Security Solutions Architect, Sumera Riaz. We did have one little question. I'd love to get your feedback on it real quick. Are the Teleris CISOs available for three-way video meetings with prospects?
Yeah, absolutely. We would say, hey, listen, if you don't mind, just have an initial conversation. We'd say, would you be open if I brought in one of my engineering resources? It's hard to go in blind. We would then say, let's have a pre-call where we jump on, tell us all about the client. Let us know what you're selling to them today, what's on their roadmap, what does their team look like? And then, yes, our CISOs, our basically security experts, are willing to jump on calls with your clients anytime to make you look good. So, great question.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much again to both of you for today's immensely insightful presentation. Our advisors asked some great questions in the chat window. There were some excellent comments. So thanks again to both of you for today's high intensity technology training. Great work. We look forward to having you back very soon.